What's up and welcome back. I'm John Stark from MacMovieGuy.com, your favorite blind film critic. And Netflix made a sequel to Beverly Hills Cop. I don't know why. I don't know what we did to deserve this. I apologized. I sent emails. I guess my apologies didn't go through. Not enough of us apologized, so they're making the movie anyway, and it's coming out. The last one was in 1994. It's 2024. I don't get this trend. I really don't. They tried rebooting this as a CBS pilot a while ago, where his son was going to be played by Brandon T. Jackson, and he would occasionally pop up, and even that didn't go to series. They had a show that was led by Brandon T. Jackson at the time, who had already done some stuff. He had already been in things. This was not like Brandon T. Jackson prior to like the Big Mama's House sequel that he was in Tropic Thunder and some other things. No, this was at sort of like his high point. And then Eddie Murphy was in the pilot, and he had committed to doing at least like a recurring role in the series and popping up every once in a while. And CBS said no. And then later on they said yes to that True Lies reboot. So how bad was it? But yet now we've got Beverly Hills Cop 4. I think it's called Beverly Hills Cop Axel F or something. I don't know. Anyway, I'm reviewing these in advance. It's Beverly Hills Cop, Beverly Hills Cop 2, and Beverly Hills Cop 3. I'm starting to learn that my content creation does not necessarily need every single video for every single sequel. This might be a little bit longer because of it, because I'm doing 3 movies in one. And I did watch them across 2 streaming services. I got the first film on Netflix because it felt appropriate, but they didn't have the sequels, so I had to go to Paramount Plus for 2 and 3. And that was how I got my audio description. The first 2 are audio described by the same person, and the third one is audio described by somebody else. I didn't get names because Paramount Plus never lets me watch credits. They're not quite as quick as kicking me out as Peacock is, but they're like the second quickest at getting me out of credits. And I wish I knew how to stop this stuff. Like I remember back in the day we had to sit through credits no matter what. Like in theaters we couldn't stop it. On TNT they always like did the super scroll, you know, where like you saw the credits. You saw like 8 minutes of credits in 30 seconds. But by God, you saw the credits. Like they played them. And that's the first time that I saw Beverly Hills Cop. The first film was on cable. So I saw the cable edit of a film with that much profanity in it. So that was my first introduction to Beverly Hills Cop. And then later on, I chose to watch Beverly Hills Cop on my own. And I got the full Foley, as it is. I believe that's what it's called in the industry, is when you get the full Foley. The first one was directed by Martin Brest, who would go on to direct Meet Joe Black, obviously. So that is obviously a logical step in a film. He's directed other things like Midnight Run, but it's funny how some careers just sort of, what was your career? Well, I directed Beverly Hills Cop and Meet Joe Black. Well, those 2 films couldn't be any more different. You really are a jack of all trades, sir. The first film is excellent. It's a classic. It doesn't have that nostalgic feel that I would say takes it to the level where I would say like a Desert Island film for me, but I don't mind watching it. Like anytime somebody's like, do you want to watch Beverly Hills Cop? I'd be like, sure, it's a great film. It has an excellent soundtrack. It just, the score for the Beverly Hills Cop films are, legendary in their own right, almost. The plot's fairly simple. You know, he is just a cop who's from Detroit, who's traveled out to Beverly Hills to find the person who killed this friend of his. And course, he meets up with an old friend along the way, and he gets these cops that follow him, and the gags are good. His energy is really high in this. This is at the beginning of Eddie Murphy's career, and this film so fully captures what made Eddie Murphy back in the day, like what everybody saw in him. So if you're young and you're like, I don't understand Eddie Murphy because you grew up on Eddie Murphy's like later half of his career, I feel that, but you so totally need to watch the older stuff because, man, he was on fire. He had some stuff in the early part of his career that is just incredible. He's so fast, so energetic, so hilarious. I can't imagine that he stuck to a script. It's impossible. I refuse to believe it. They let him improv. It has to be, because that's the only way he can get through a lot of his gags. The gag is always that he like walks up to anybody and kind of talks to them long enough until he kind of just berates them into believing what it is that he needs them to believe, that he is whoever he says he is, and he's an inspector, needs to be let into the room right now, or he's a reporter for Rolling Stone, or whatever it is. If he says it long enough and loud enough and with enough confidence, people are like, oh yeah, oh my God, you are Ronald Reagan. I thought he was somebody else. You know, I mean, you start feeling stuff like that, and he just gaslights you eventually, and then you're like, yes, sir, you do own my car. I forgot. Here's my car. Thank you for taking it. He can get anything out of anybody, basically. So, I would say the film has a memorable villain too. Actually, I don't know that anybody is like quite like Hans Gruber, but they're all like close. Do you know what I'm saying? Like they all feel like you understand who they are, their motivations, they have fun scenes. Nowadays we have so many films that they don't even think about the villain. They just think, they're like, well, we have visual effects, we have an A-list star, and it's about the hero. And the villains are like an afterthought, and they're like, why did my film fail? It's like, I don't know, because your villain is terrible. Like, what is the motivation of your villain? Like Venom. Like, what is that? Who's that villain? Like, why does he have no personality? Stuff like that. There's, I don't mean Venom as a character. I mean the Venom movie with Tom Hardy. His villain is awful. Not the actor. I love the actor. The villain is terrible in that movie. Just using it as a random example of a shitty villain in a movie where people are like, I don't understand why this film doesn't work. Well, Venom needs a strong villain. One of the reasons why the Carnage movie is slightly better, because Carnage is a much better villain than whoever the hell was in the first film. So, yes, this film and it introduces his, the cops that are going to follow him around, including Judge Reinhold, who will be in all three films. Taggart is only in the first two. John Astin's only the first two. He decided not to come back for the third film. Probably a solid choice. They replaced him, so Reinhold has like a new partner, and I don't know. It's the third film. Whatever. These films were all produced by Jerry Bruckheimer, Don Simpson. The second film was directed by Tony Scott. And what I can say about that film is that the commissioner, not chief, because he's not that high up, but he's like the boss of judge and the other guy, the two cops that follow him around. He's the boss of those characters, and he thinks he's uncovered something, but he gets shot. And then Axel, who's in the middle of the case, flies out to Los Angeles and tries and kind of like, has Paul Reiser just pretend to be him. So Paul Reiser has more to do in the second film as a result of that. And then Axel gets to go out to Los Angeles and play around with the alphabet killer, who is going around and robbing things, and they're trying to figure out, because he's leaving like messages, and they're trying to uncover that crime. And it's got Brigitte Nielsen, who provides excellent fodder for Murphy's jokes. I don't know how she felt about being in this film, but her height alone allows for Murphy to make jokes. And there's also, they end up at the Playboy Mansion. And I will have to say, as in terms of audio description, it's not like I was looking for anything at the Playboy Mansion. Not my thing at the Playboy Mansion, if you get what I'm saying. But I would say it was narrated very diplomatically, you know? I think they were referred to as like volleyball players and stuff like that. And you're like, it's the Playboy Mansion? They're here? It's an R-rated film? Is no one naked? Because they did not bring it up in the audio description. Feels weird. Feels like a weird flex. You know, like, well, we're at the Playboy Mansion. There's a Hugh Hefner cameo here. Everyone has their clothes on. Weird. Yeah, it's not mentioned at all whether or not anybody is. So everyone can be naked, and then we have no idea. I actually have not seen Beverly Hills Cop 2. The only film I had seen previously was 1, and I had actually seen that twice. So I'm more familiar with 1, and then I finally got the sequels down with audio description. So I don't actually know what that scene looks like. But it's a solid film, and it's a film that feels like a logical sequel. Murphy is still giving 110%, as they say. We can't literally give 110%. We can give like 100. Like, I don't think we can give 100. We give whatever. We give whatever we can. But he's giving it in that film. And you can feel it. You can feel the energy because it's the energy that he needs. And again, once he's still berating people into believing whatever he wants them to believe, whoever he is. He has that energy to be able to do that. So I thought it worked. I thought it was a great sequel. And of course, Tony Scott, you know. Wow. So, gone on to direct many great films. Of the 3 directors, it's debatable because the director of the 3rd film also has some classic films to his resume. I think they're probably both about Martin Brest. I'm not trying to like say Martin Brest is bad, but Tony Scott. And then the 3rd film is directed by John Landis, who brought us Animal House and Blues Brothers. An odd choice for an action comedy, but yes, John Landis directed the 3rd film. And like I said, Taggart did not return for this film. Actually, a lot of people did not return for this film. Judge Reinhold did, because Judge Reinhold will return for anything. A paycheck. So I'm sure he's in the 4th film. If they asked, if he's not in it, it's because they didn't ask him. Like, he would come back from the dead. Yeah, even if he wasn't here anymore, he would rise, and he'd be like, "I'm here. What do you need me to do?" I feel like he's still alive though, because I think he was in the Santa Claus series. So at some point, so I think I've seen him recently in that Tim Allen thing on Disney Plus. Anyway, Judge is back. He's got a new partner. It doesn't really matter. Nobody's gonna care. This is the one that was filmed like mostly at theme parks, but it starts out. Everybody's always in Detroit, and then they move to Beverly Hills. So, it starts in Detroit, and basically Axel's boss from the first 2 films is gunned down. So now it's personal. It's real personal. It's not just an acquaintance. It's like that man was like family. And then like there's this scene where he's like, "Go get him, Axel." Like, you know, one of those. It's much cheesier. It's very 90s. Eddie doesn't have the energy to do what he used to do by the 90s, which is funny because he still hasn't done something like The Nutty Professor at this point, which arguably he has a lot of energy. It's a different kind of Eddie Murphy energy in the 90s. He started making a different kind of film. He's not as young, and he can't get away with what he can get away with. So it's a little bit slowed down. It's a little bit more of an action movie over a comedy film. A little bit more of a cop thriller than a straight up comedy movie. So it's not quite as funny. And a lot of people don't like the third film, and it doesn't work as much. It didn't work as much for me either. I don't think it's bad. It's kind of goofy. It spends a lot of time at a theme park. They shot this at Paramount Great America, whatever that is. I've never been to it. Also, interestingly cited through nice Google searches, Knott's Berry Farm. I don't know if they use it as an exterior and interior. It seems that primarily they shot it there, but also listed as a filming location was Knott's Berry Farm. So maybe there was like one ride where they were like, oh my God, we have to get this ride because it's not at the other theme park and we need it to complete this film. I don't know. But it's not like there aren't plenty of theme parks in and around the Los Angeles area for them to be able to use for various reasons that are not Disneyland. They managed to do this without going to Disneyland, so good for them. Anyway, there's this weird thing where it's everything takes place at a theme park. There's a guy who's maybe like minting money under the theme park, and Axel stumbles across it, and there's sort of this lovely Walt Disney-esque character who's like trying to help him along, Uncle Frank or Fred, or I don't know, something like that. And he's on the good guy side, and it's pretty obvious who the bad guy is because you see him from the beginning in the shootout, and then when Murphy sees him again, he like loses his shit. Axel Foley is like, "That's him!" Just, you know, just goes out. It just goes for it. But, it doesn't have quite the power, the punch, the pizzazz, the whatever, that the first two had. But it does have John Landis, which is weird because you would think it would be funnier because he's coming out of comedy a lot more than the other directors are. You know, Tony Scott is known for action. So when the second film has more action in it and has these, you know, great fight sequences, you're like, that makes sense. It's a Tony Scott film. Obviously, Martin Brest kind of set the tone for the first Beverly Hills Cop. So when you come back to John Landis, you're like, well, it's maybe not the great choice for the action part of the film. It should be a great choice for the comedic part of the film. Oddly, it's the least funny of the three. Very weird. All of the audio description sounds like it was created 30 years ago. There used to be a service that you could mail in and get like these VHS tapes sent to you. Kind of feels like they all came from that period, which is somewhat impressive if that's true, because that means the audio description has survived from that period in a way in which companies still use it. If this really is like 30-year-old audio description, not 30-year-old, 20-year-old audio description. I don't know, 25-year-old audio description. I don't know when it was done, but at whatever point it was done, 27-year-old audio description. I don't know my vintage, but at whatever point this was described, the fact that Paramount would still be using it, because even though Beverly Hills Cop was on Netflix, the first one, these films are still Paramount films. So, yeah, it's impressive that they would maintain audio description for that long, because it seems like our accessibility is constantly getting lost. Like, we can't even get like streamers to put their own audio description on their own streamers. Stuff that they have coming straight out of theaters. So, you know, I do remember when Peacock had Jurassic Park and didn't have audio description. It does now. Like a year after I did a review of it, pointing out that Peacock has Jurassic Park, and I'm like, Universal would not be around without films like Jurassic Park. This is like a benchmark for them. This is a touchstone for Universal, and this doesn't have audio description of all of the films, really. Shenanigans. But luckily these three films do, so I was able to enjoy all three in preparation for whatever the Netflix is going to throw at us. We'll find out. So where do I think these films land? Well, I'm going to give the first two A's. I'm going to give Beverly Hills Cop 3. I'm gonna give it a B minus. It's not bad. It's just it lacks the flavor, the energy, which makes me really think that like if this like just even a few years later felt different, felt sort of out of place to the franchise, felt slower, felt whatever, that a fourth film 30 years after this one cannot possibly be a good idea, especially considering I do not know the director and their credits. It's not like they went and got somebody great for this. If this was someone, if the fourth film was being directed by somebody who I was like intrigued as to why they would want to do that film, like James Gunn, I'd be like, why is James Gunn doing Beverly Hills Cop 4? I'm intrigued. You know, it's not like that. It's just a guy. Anyway, these are my thoughts on the Beverly Hills Cop franchise. And instead of doing 3 videos and spamming you, I did it all in one. It's longer. Let me know if you like this format. If this is easier for you than doing separate videos for each. I want to try to figure out how to correctly do content creation in a way that doesn't feel like I'm spamming you either with videos. So, thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. And I will see you guys with Beverly Hills Cop 4. Yeah, next. Tomorrow on Beverly Hills Cop 4. See you then.